All right, music fans, welcome back. Harmless Dave here, talking real music in real time for real people just like you and just like me. First off, I want to thank my buddy Mark, who's a patron on the channel, who sent me a link to this particular story. Alan Jackson, he's really mad, and I don't blame him whatsoever. Alan Jackson just did this interview with a publication called Hits Daily Double. He doesn't mince words. He says that country music is gone, and he's just not happy about it and says it's not coming back. He says it's like the 1980s again. Actually, I would probably say it's worse than the 1980s. I understand the 80s were kind of a time when country music sounded a lot like what was going on in the 80s, but compared to what's happening now, I would say 80s country music, including bands like Alabama, for instance, and there were other bands that got their start during the 80s and then transitioned into the 90s, where everybody went a little neo-traditional, which is what he's referring to. I still think the 80s were a bet. You could find some stuff in the 80s. The production value, maybe a little too much synthesizer, not enough real drum sounds. I get that, but compared to what's been going on these days, I would tend to disagree a little bit with Alan there. But he says, I'm 62 years old. I'm not some 30-year-old stud. It's not the same. But somebody has to bring it back. In other words, he's saying, look, I'm not the young guy I was when I burst onto the scene. And typically record labels, they want a younger guy who looks good, who can mug for the camera when they do videos and so forth. In the case of Alan Jackson, he says, I'm not going to be the revival guy because I'm 62. He says it's not just people in their 50s, it's people in their 20s too. And what he's referring to is that people around him have gotten more hardcore and traditional, and they've leaned into that. He says, and this is a great line. I love this line. He says, it's not old school, it's real school. That is so much wisdom in that little phrase. People will say, well, it's old school country music, it's cool. No, it's, when somebody's playing a real stringed instrument, a banjo, guitar, whatever it is, pedal steel guitar. These are the things that were essential to country music. He goes on to say, I'm kind of pissed off about what's happened to the format, or whatever they want to call it. So Jackson, who is leaning into his country roots, has a brand new album, Where Have You Gone? The title is a reference to the music industry. The singer describes the project as harder country than he's ever done in the past. So he's kind of pushing back and going the opposite way. Guarantee you this record is going to sell with absolutely no radio support. Radio will not touch this. But Alan Jackson's fans will go out and purchase it, download it. And I'm sure once he hits the road, which he's planning to do, people are going to show up in droves to see Alan Jackson. Alan Jackson is the real deal, and hence that is why he is on this channel. In any event, thanks for watching the videos. Is country music in a tailspin like most formats? Absolutely. Can it be revived? I don't know. In West Texas, there's a thing going on. It's called Red Dirt Country. It's been going on for quite some time. And they have their own radio stations that play this music, and they have their own charts that I've monitored from time to time. And I've even had a couple of artists from that genre on my channel to do interviews because I've been so intrigued by it. This band called Tex Westus, featuring this wonderful married couple who just sing the real stuff, and it's the real deal. And there's so much of that coming out over there, but obviously it's not getting national attention. But if you're a country music traditionalist, There are even radio stations that play this stuff 24/7. And it's some pretty cool stuff. I know country isn't for everyone, and I know this channel is about more than country for sure. Mostly it's about rock and other stuff, but every so often I go off the rails and do a video about country. So again, thanks for watching, and I will see you soon.